Today, we're going to make the beverage that Brian's told me, his first time tasting it, that it could replace bourbon.
Some like it hot. Hi, I'm Brian.
I'm Derica, and you're watching City Steading. To learn to grow and brew, and to take control of your food, hit subscribe now. And check out the other links below of all the other numerous places you can find Brian and I chatting it up and having fun. Today, we're making...
Capsicumel. You know why she had me say it? How do you say that?
I mess it up every time.
Capsicumel. It's mead made with jalapenos. In our case, jalapenos. You can make it with chilies, but we're using jalapenos. And these happen to be our jalapenos, which I would call them like jalapeno version 3.0. These suckers are hot. They're probably twice as hot as a typical jalapeno. But, you know, I made this, like 6 weeks ago? Just made a little half gallon as a tester, just to see if I would like it, because I wasn't sure. I didn't like it. I loved it. It was awesome.
He was taking this around.
It was gone.
Try this.
We had a bottle and a half of it. That's all that came out. The half bottle was gone that night. The night I bottled it. The half bottle we took to your brother's. The full bottle we took to Savvy and Ben's for D&D Day, and that was gone. Didn't last at all. The one person of all the people that have tried it that didn't adore it is Derica.
Now,
just not her thing.
I like it and I appreciate it, and I find its flavor profile to be very interesting. And in another video,
I'll be right back.
We're gonna doctor that up to see if maybe I just don't like it a little bit more. But on its own, as a drink just to drink, it's a little
It's awesome. It's awesome. Just saying.
As I did in another video, it kind of reminded me of... Just saying.
Alright, so let's just get to it. The first thing that we always do is we sanitize everything. Okay?
The red bucket of sanitization!
Which somebody actually coined the name Turbos.
Turbos!
The red bucket of sanitize.
Turbos, how are you feeling today? What was that?
We're not really going to go there.
The Facebook group is awesome? I agree, Turbos. Good for you.
And we just became Mr. Rogers' neighbor. Anyway, so that's the first thing you do. So all this stuff has been sanitized except, of course, the raisins and the yeast. Now, I'm going to open up my journal here.
We searched endlessly for a fancy, but not too fancy, practical, but just enough impractical journal for Brian to write his recipes down in. And how many have you actually written?
Two. The Capsicumel is actually the first one. And then you notice how I'm caressing it. Anyway, so this was for a half-gallon batch. In that I used 2 crushed jalapenos, 1 cup of black tea. I forgot the tea. Gotta make tea. 1.75 pounds of honey, water to make a half gallon, about 25 crushed raisins, and, believe it or not, Fleischmann's bread yeast. I'm going to use bread yeast again today just because it worked really, really well. The OG on this was 1.152, which is super, super high. And I think it's because when you do the half gallon and you leave headspace and then you put raisins in and you put jalapeno, it wasn't really a half gallon. So we're going to experiment a little bit with this. It's probably going to come out slightly lower than that because this finished at like 1060. And I mean, it was sweet, but with all the jalapeno in there, it was really awesome. So I'm actually making it with a couple more jalapenos this time. And we'll see how it comes out. But I need to go get some tea.
Okay, so for our tea, we're using BG Tips. Why?
Because it's awesome.
Because it's awesome.
Some other people from the UK have recommended some other types, and that's all good. And I will get to trying those too. Just for this, I don't really think it's going to make that much difference. But I like to use a good quality tea anyway. And it helps if you do it in the City Steading book. Extra points if you do. Okay, so this is actually a really simple mead, a lot like most of our others. We're doing it in a wide mouth jar on purpose because that way we have access to the solids that are going in. Now you might have noticed in a lot of videos that I like to make a tea or an infusion that we put in. That way I can keep it all liquid and I don't have to strain stuff out. With jalapenos, you kind of want them all mushed up and thrown in there. So I'm just going to get to cutting them up. Real simple cutting. Cut off the top, cut it in half, just like that. That's all I really need to do.
And if you do it that way, you don't have to touch the innards, and the juices won't absorb into your fingers and make you cry.
Yep.
And if you're wearing protective eye gear and you're not me, hopefully you won't get it in your eye.
Yeah, don't get jalapeno juice in your eyes. It's not fun.
I have done a lot of ridiculous stuff in my life.
Thankfully, most of it was before video was a big thing.
But I think getting jalapeno juice accidentally in my eye might be one of the most traumatic experiences I've had. And I nearly cut my toe off, so you know.
So, you might be wondering, why are you throwing those into a plastic bag? You will see in a minute. The word bejesus came up in a recent video.
That was me.
Anyway, so I have the jalapenos, and I'm going to throw in a handful of raisins. A pretty good handful. This actually, like it said, 25 in a half gallon. So I'm going to go like that much. Then
You have to get Thor's hammer!
if you use the flat side, it's not as effective. Use the pointy side. Now, somebody's going to say, but you're breaking the bag. Yes, I am. But you know what? If I didn't have it in a bag, this would just go all over the place.
Hey, before you do this, can I move the really expensive knife out of the way?
Sure. Judy would be happy. Why am I handing you a knife?
Okay, let me be on the...
There,
whatever.
see, it's all safe now. And then I just want to basically mash them up a little bit. Break them up just a touch. It was actually in the making of this experiment that I discovered this method of smashing the bejesus out of things with the with the meat mallet. But what it does is it perforates it a little bit, breaks them up, works beautifully. Okay, I'm not going to put that in there yet because I do have to weigh the honey.
I know, I was...
You were just holding it so it didn't fall over. Alrighty, so
Do you not need that anymore?
I do not need this anymore.
And you don't need the knife anymore?
No, I do not need the knife anymore.
Okay, if you step to the side...
I'm going to step completely out of the way. Okay, so to recap, we have a cup of tea going. And it's just a regular cup. I mean, I'm going to let it sit for as long as it takes until we get to that point. So probably like 5 to 10 minutes. We mashed up our jalapenos and raisins. Now, we're ready to hydrate. I probably should have done this first. We're going to hydrate our yeast. And I'm using my special self-stirring cup. I'm just going to put a little bit of water in there.
We do have these cups in the brewing section of the City
Yeah.
Steading Amazon store. Some people, I think, are getting confused because they're not called self-brewing cups. Because
Yeah,
as far
it's
as
Amazon.
I know, there's no such thing. Stop it! What this actually is a replacement cup for the Magic Bullet. So we have various different sizes and selections of those, but that's what you're looking for when you're reading the titles in our City Steading store.
Yeah, I named it the self-stirring cup. What can I say? And I'm using Fleischmann's Active Dry Bread Yeast. This is my favorite stuff to use for brewing. I use it a lot, more than probably people realized I did.
The reason why we like to use it isn't simply because it's really easy to get,
Because it's cheap.
but it's because it has a relatively low alcohol tolerance,
Yeah.
which means its ABV should end up around...
Between 11 and 13, usually. Sorry, Thor's kind of being a butt. He's sitting there looking like he wants to jump up
He
on
has
something.
needs, and apparently all those needs are
Right now there's a lot of wires and very precariously placed gear in the area that he's looking to jump up on.
He knows this video is all about him because we use Thor's hammer!
Alright, well anyway. So, yeah, that's where we're at. And we
So
hydrate
if you don't
these...
want, back to my original point, so if you don't want to use Fleischmann's bread yeast, you can use...
Any ale yeast is probably sufficient. I mean, we've used Safe Ale SO4 and it's worked out pretty well. SO5 would be similar. They do produce slightly different esters and things like that. I have found, and and some people might argue with me, that in basic meads like this, especially a flavored mead, the bread yeast really brings out the flavor of the honey nicely. This tastes like a honey mead with peppers in it. It really tastes great. And I know I'm sounding like a broken record and probably preaching to the choir, because most people who like our videos probably are quite okay with using bread yeast. And if you're not, try it sometime. So I'm just shaking this up. It's already getting foamy. That's the other thing I like about it. This stuff is reliable. It works. I also go through quite a bit of it. That's why it doesn't hurt us to buy this much at a time. It might last me a couple months because I make a lot of bread and, you know, with all the brewing and stuff. But anyway, so that's enough of that. On to the next phase, which is
measuring the honey. So you put that on there first.
you turn it on. There's two ways to do this. I like to put it on, then zero it. But you can put it on the scale and then turn it on, and it zeroes automatically. I know.
So we have our honey in our sanitization water, not because we need to sanitize the outside of our honey vessel, but
it was sticky though.
We use warm water. And that way our honey will be slightly more liquidous and it'll be easier to pour.
Now, this recipe calls for 3.5 pounds of honey. I don't know if there's 3.5 pounds in this jar. I'm gonna go with probably not. I think there's like 2.5. But we just came from the store, and we did happen to get more honey. All right, so this one's given up everything it's got. And if you would hand me one of those other jars, please. I keep putting stuff in front of the camera. That's why she moves it. Now, this is only in there for a few seconds. I don't expect it to do much. And I only need 1 pound out of this one. And this honey, just a word about honey. This came from the grocery store, but I happen to know this is from Be Natural Honey, which is just up the road in Dunedin, Florida. It's not far from us, and it's raw, unfiltered honey. And I know Heather and, oh man, what's her boyfriend's name? I forget. I'm so sorry. They are in our group, and my scale just gave me an error.
Uh-oh.
Great. So, I'm gonna guess. This scale only goes to 5 pounds. With the jar and honey in it, it's over 5 pounds. Now I know that there's 2 pounds in here and I only needed 1 pound. Just under, actually. So I'm just gonna eyeball it.
So I guess we need a third scale.
Yeah. That's, yeah.
This is our original scale. We have another scale that...
For very small amounts.
Minute amounts, because we were needing to weigh grams, and they're pretty much the weight of a paperclip, so...
Oh, this is good stuff. This is wildflower honey, if anybody was curious.
And now we're going to need an over 5 pound
Now I need
scale.
to wash my hands, because I licked my finger. Okay, so I'm going to find out exactly how much we have later on, because I have to take a measurement, obviously. So what we have here, honey, right? You take the honey, add in our flavorants. Oh, smell that.
I know what it's...
It smells awesome. The thing about peppers, chilies like this, is they're wonderful because they do two things. They give you that peppery flavor, the fruity peppery flavor, and they give you the heat of the pepper. And this mead is special because to me, when you take a taste of it, you get that sweet and hot right away. But it finishes so fast and goes away. The heat doesn't stay in your mouth. So you can make this really, really hot and it just adds to the flavors and then it's gone. And that was amazing to me about this. I'd never had a Capsicumel before.
We did have Savvy taste this, and if you remember Savvy from our blind taste test of the yeast nutrient video, she was complaining about the alcohol content because it was making her jaw hurt. So she found this to be pleasing, and that heat just instantly dissipated.
11.5% roughly.
Then fear not, those of you who are timid versus the spicy stuff.
I'll put some water in here just to help mix this up. As you can see, it doesn't like to blend. May I have the lid? Oh, it's right here.
Do you want the tea in yet?
Not yet.
Okay.
You know what? Do I want to shake it that way? I don't. Be right back. Please sanitize that spoon. Could be a little smarter today rather than shake this all over the place, because I know these lids don't seal 100% well and they leak. So I'm going to show you an alternative method of stirring. It's called using a spoon. And you just get it going real good. Now I only went halfway on purpose so that I don't just get it all. See, it's already spilling up into my hands.
Yeah, because you did the reverse thing.
Yeah, well, I had to break the. No, I didn't.
No, you didn't.
You do want to be a little sloppy with the stirring though, because you want to introduce oxygen. Right? Because we want oxygen in the beginning.
So this is stirring up the odors as well, and so I'm getting the aroma of the peppers and the honey combined, and yeah, that's pretty awesome.
Oh yeah. Now I said this could replace bourbon. What that means is, every night, I get out a glass. I put an ice ball in it. Don't hate. And I put either scotch or usually it's bourbon in it. And it's a pretty good dose. And I drink that while we watch TV and relax for the evening. When I made this, that night, I had a couple of these instead and said, you know, I could do this. Now that that's stirred up pretty good, I am going to add the tea into that. I haven't put the yeast in yet. This tea water is probably hot, but I'm not going to worry about it too much because there's no yeast in there yet, and that much volume, whatever, you know, it'll be fine. And it's just, as you can see, just a plain old cup of tea. I can squeeze the bag a little bit. There's some flavonoids in there that you really don't want, but it's not that big of a deal for
Normally
this.
you don't want to do that when you're drinking tea, but in this case we're using tea as a tannic additive to our brew.
Yeah, we never said why.
The tannins that you get from squeezing tea bags are actually useful in this particular instance.
Let me explain why all these ingredients are in here. Actually, that's a good idea. Yeast needs nutrients in order to feed and convert sugars into alcohol, okay? Now, how much they need is up for debate. We're not even going to get into that. But they do need something at least to help, to be like a catalyst, right? So, by adding the tea, we give it a little bit, because the tea actually does have some amount of nutrient in there. But the tea also acts as a tannin. It gives you that mouthfeel, that pucker. Adds a little bit of body and just, in general, rounds out some of the flavors. The raisins, they're in there for A, nutrition for the yeast, and B, a little bit of flavor, and they also have skins. They're going to give a little bit of tannin too. Plus they give almost a fruity overtone to the mead without it being too much. You can't really say, oh, I taste raisin. It's just, you might miss it if it wasn't there, is the best way to describe it. The jalapenos, I mean, that's pretty obvious. They're there for heat, but also for that fruity flavor. Plus, they are nutrients for that yeast. There's a lot of nitrogen in there, lots of good stuff for the yeast. So this is actually a very nutrient-rich must.
And that is something that I think gets confused in this debate about natural versus modern brewing, is that basically the main ingredient that the yeast is looking for to help them be more productive is nitrogen. And if you're a gardener, you understand the effects of nitrogen on growing things.
Make things big and green, right?
If you're not a gardener, then just let us tell you that nitrogen is important for growing things. Yeast is alive, and it needs its nutrients in order to thrive properly.
Well, yes and no, because we have a guy who's a microbiologist that I have to talk to him in a good way. It's not bad. That sounded awful. I want to talk to him, but he actually said, here's the thing about yeast. If you give it sugar, it will convert it to alcohol, period. It doesn't actually need the extra stuff. The question is how efficiently and what off flavors and off products will it produce in the process.
Right.
That's the thing.
And that's part of the reason why you add nitrogen-rich things, which fruit on its own, the peppers being the fruit, the raisins being a fruit, have the nitrogen to aid in that process. So you're going to think about it in gardening terms more of like a fertilizer. What the plant really needs is the water and the nutrients that are in the soil. The nitrogen added to that just makes it happier. So here, what the yeast really needs is the sugars, and in this particular case, the sugars are coming from the honey to feed on, and then that additives of nitrogen from the other things are just helping it along like fertilizer.
Okay, so I added more water and I mixed that up real good. Tried to get a little bit more oxygen into the mix. I'm going to pitch the yeast in, and I'm going to get my headspace up to the, yeah, it's not hot.
Yeah, it's not.
I checked. It's like warm. It was cool water, so.
Yeah.
And I pitched it in. I'm going to mix that around, and I'm checking my headspace. I'm going to push this as far as I can. I want as much product. But you don't want to go too far because then it'll blow up into the airlock and it's bad. And that's as far as I'll go. That's it. See? I was safe-ish. Somebody's going to be like, Brian, you're pushing it. Yeah, a little.
We, on our Facebook group, we have lots of people sharing their experiences with blowouts through their airlock.
While she talks, I'm going to take a measurement.
It's a thing. We have it happen. It's a real pain when it gets into the airlock.
I'm greedy.
Because we can use bottle cleaners to clean this portion and this portion, but this part here, if you get goop in there and it dries, it's going to be hard to clean it out. You can soak it in sanitize water. If you use Star San sanitizer like we do, it is an acid base, so it is going to kill anything that it needs to be killed. But you may still see a bit of residue in there, and it's not pleasant to look at, but it's not going to harm anything.
1.130? Yeah. 1.130. I'm good with that. I'm not entirely sure what 1.130 comes out to when it dries out, but it'll probably be, actually, if I go, I'm going to give you some math. I know that we like meads in the 0.30 to 0.40 range for residual sugars, which sounds rather high. However, in a mead like this that has spices in it, you need that extra sugar to combat the spices. So I know we happen to like them that way. A little bit of math for you. If it's 1.130 to start.
Is that the proper amount, or does
Yeah.
it have to be adjusted?
Yeah, that's good enough. It's 1.130 to start. If it finishes at, say, 1.030, that means I used 100 points of gravity. 100 points of gravity times 131.25 comes out to 13% alcohol. I'd be surprised if this came to 13%. It'll probably end at about 12 like it did last time. So that means I got an extra, 10 points or so. So this will probably finish at 1040, 1045, something like that, and come out nice and sweet. And it's going to be spicy. It's going to be hot. But it's going to be awesome. Anyway, so once you get to this point, you're probably wondering, but how long does it take? And why aren't you showing me how it tastes? Because it's not done yet. By the time you see this video, which will be like a few days after we make it, it'll still be going.
Ideally, when we make our test brews, if they turn out well, we want to save a portion of that so that way we can put it in with the video when we make the full amount to share with the recipe with you and do the tasting in the same shot. As we have discussed already, Brian really, really liked this, so it's
Drank it.
all gone. It's
Excuse me again.
in his belly.
Not anymore, it's gone. Anyway, some questions that people always have. How long in primary? This I cannot actually answer for you. Last time, I left it for about 3 weeks. Okay? I bottled it right from the fermenter. This time, I'd like to have some of this at Christmas time. So today is actually the 6th of December. Christmas is the 25th. We'll be going to her brother's on the 24th. So that actually gives me 18 days. I don't know that it'll be ready in 18 days. But last time I let it sit for 3 weeks. Does that mean it was fermenting for 3 weeks? I don't think so. I think it actually fermented for probably 10 days and I just let it sit the extra week and a
We
half.
tend to have a lot of brews going at once. We
tend to have a lot of things going on at one time in general.
Yes, our lives are complete chaos.
So I don't always get to it the day it's ready or that kind of, it's usually a week later. Now this time, I'm probably going to start checking this after about 2 weeks. I want to see, like after 14 days, is this done? And I will probably break my 2-rack rule and just rack it off the sediment and stuff and bottle some of it well, I'm going to bottle all of it right away. No, I might just bottle one bottle, bring it to your brothers, and the other 3 can sit. I will probably cold crash it to help it clear. Last time it didn't clear really, really clear. It was okay. It was a little cloudy, but yeah. And now we're just babbling at you. This was a very simple mead. I hope you enjoyed it. And I can guarantee if you like spicy things, you will love this. I was hesitant, but I love it.
He loves it. It's true.
It's awesome.
So thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time on City Steading.
Have a great day, guys.
Bye-bye.
Hey everybody, thanks for watching. Don't forget, if you want to learn to grow and brew and take control of your food, hit the subscribe icon down below, and don't forget to hit that little bell. That way you get notified of everything we do. And if you really like what we do, consider becoming a patron. Information in the descriptions of all of our videos. Thanks guys, have a great day. Let me just do a quick check of the recording levels back there. So say something. Yeah, it's not showing. We have no bloopers.
Yes, we have no bloopers. We have no bloopers today.
Did not see that coming.